Our final speaker of the session is Dr. Lee Yi-chang. He is a Malaysian chairman and governing council of International Science, Technology and Innovation Center for South Cooperation under auspicious UNESCO, shortly KISTEP. He was the first Asian president of the World Federation of Engineering Organization. In addition, he has many other leadership in the S&T policy worldwide. His talk will be on innovation and the UN Sustainable Development Goal 2016 and 2030. Please welcome Dr. Lee Yi-chang.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm the last speaker in this forum, and it was at my request that I was put last. And my talk actually is on the innovation and the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So I thought that in this forum, the last step is to take development and innovation to the global scale. Sorry. So if you remember, at the turn of the millennium, year 2000, then we had the 8 UN Millennium Development Goals called the SDGs, and I've listed the thing, and the idea is to try to solve the problems of global poverty, hunger, diseases, and the related ills of the world. To me, the MDGs, they were actually unambitious because they only want to reduce all the global problems by half, not totally, in 15 years. And it is silo-like because they don't involve cross-cutting issues like youth employment, energy, small and medium enterprises, which are vital to the developing world. And then it's government-centric. They do not involve the non-government and private sector. Why was that? Was because, in my opinion, the MDGs were promoted by the G7 countries who say to the developing world that we only have so much money in aid, so you must not be too ambitious, and we like you to address soft issues like gender, like labor, human rights, and etc. So actually, the MDGs do not provide solution for the urgent problem of the developing world, namely poverty eradication through gainful wealth and employment creation. These shortcomings were somewhat addressed by the UN Millennium Project and my task force, which is the Science, Technology, Innovation Task Force. And it was actually supposed to be the ICT task force, but my co-chair, Professor Callister Juma of Harvard and Kenya and myself thought that we should broaden it up to science, technology, and it was more or less the first time that we mentioned innovation. And I want to just mention about our publication, which is Innovation, Applying Knowledge to Development. Actually, applying knowledge to development in the developing world. So I hope that you can download this because it is, I think, still very relevant. So this is the part of the UN Millennium Project Task Force under Jeffrey Sachs. So the young gentleman behind Kofi Annan with a lot of black hair was my younger self. So I want to actually draw attention to the title that the first time we used the word innovation. But in the context of the Millennium Project Task Force, STI Task Force, innovation to us means thinking out of the box, not business as usual. and also trying to learn from success story of other developing countries. We have no such clear ideas of now the many more definitions of innovation. It's just out of the box, not business as usual, and learn from the success story of other developing countries. So the main recommendation of task force are twofold. The first is that we must build infrastructure, inclusive infrastructure for development. The other one, we must nurture and uplift small, indigenous, small and medium enterprises. Now, ladies and gentlemen, at the end of this year or next month, at the UN Summit General Assembly, the 8 MDGs will be replaced by 17 Sustainable Development Goals. I'm listing them out just so that you can refer to them. But I would suggest you download the link and then have a look at the detail of the SDGs plus the 169 targets. But the SDGs are comprehensive. They are holistic, cross-disciplinary, and multi-stakeholder in participation. But the most important thing to me is that there is the bold determination that by 2030, global poverty will be eradicated. I think this is the very good message that the global top political will is there to try to eradicate poverty. The SDGs were the result of 2.5 years of very intensive consultation, global consultation, since Rio +20. And the consultation then resulted in this consensus of the 17 SDGs. And I would like to point out to you and hope that you download the synthesis report of UN Secretary Ban Ki-moon in December last year. It outlined all the justification why the 17 SDGs have been chosen. So the synthesis report of the Secretary General, it placed great emphasis on technology for the achievement of the SDGs by 2030. And you see that he also mentioned about technological innovation in order to solve the global problems. And he basically said that new technology are making possibility for sustainable development. But what in his synthesis report that I particularly like, that you find that very few UN documents ever mention this, is large amount of public resources are allocated to military budgets. And military innovations are also the result of science and technology. Let us not forget that. Let us not all the time talk about the benefits of science and technology. They are the downsides of science and technology, military budgets, while comparatively less is spent on research and development for public good. We must facilitate access to the benefits of technology for all, including the poorest. In my opinion, there is enough technology now for the developing country to achieve all the SDGs. If the technology is shared at appropriate cost, affordable cost for the South country, and also with the substitution and better use of indigenous technology and indigenous material resources. In my view, why was it this drastic transformation from the very, very unambitious MDG to the now holistic SDG? Is because of the rise of the South countries, basically in Asia Pacific, that follow a different development pathway. And this development pathway is infrastructure construction, domestic manufacture, industrialization, and commerce, and leading to commerce and trade. Of course, the most striking examples in Asia has been China, the Asian tigers of Hong Kong, Korea, Singapore, and Taiwan, and later Malaysia, ASEAN, and India, and now the Gulf countries. The only SDG among the 17 SDGs that explicitly mention innovation is in SDG number 9. Build resilient infrastructure, promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization, and foster innovation. That's the only time innovation is mentioned. So, but I want you to note that innovation is linked to infrastructure, to industrialization. So I would like to say that contrary to the widespread belief that innovation is only the fruit of R&D in academia, the SDG number 9 affirms that innovation that create wealth and employment happen mostly in manufacturing and infrastructure industry throughout the world. But the SDG number 9 also affirms that infrastructure development is the foundation for economic and social development of any country, particularly a developing country. Then I want to just have some idea about the infrastructure construction outlook. So according to the UK government report, that the global construction industry is set to see growth of 4.3% per annum until 2025, but primarily in South country, emerging economy. This chart shows that construction used to be 9% of GDP, global GDP, but because of the financial crisis, it dropped to about 5%. But if we take the UK government's report of 4.3%, and then 2012, the global GDP amount to about 72.6 trillion US dollar. So the annual infrastructure construction industry turnover is some 3.1 trillion US dollar. It is a very big industry. Now, as far as the infrastructure construction in Asia is concerned, the giant is China. And China is investing a lot in infrastructure at home. The value add for Chinese construction industry is projected to reach US dollars 942.3 dollars in 2018. So in these few slides, I want to show you the mega projects in China. This is the Three Gorges Dam on the Yangtze, and then the biggest hydroelectric power in the generator in China, hydro generator in the world, but its main purpose is flood control. Since the dam has been built, there has been no disasters flood downstream of this Three Gorges Dam on the Yangtze. The next one is the Yarrow River in the north, and you can see that it is still very muddy, but because of the multi-dam construction along the Yarrow River has run dry in summer. So this is the bad example of over-development of hydro resources on a river, that the ecosystem of the downstream of the Yarrow River has been spoiled. So now, what China is doing is to pump water, because Yarrow River also supply water to Beijing and Tianjin. So now it's run dry. So China is having a mega project to pump water from the Yangtze River back to the Yarrow River and to supply Tianjin and Beijing. And this is a massive project, more costly than the Three Gorges Dam. Then this is the 36-kilometer bridge on the seabed at Hangzhou Bay. High-speed train, as you know, the Chinese diplomacy is now called the high-speed train diplomacy. Then the fastest supercomputer in the world, and also you know about their space technology. Now, why I'm showing you these few slides is to show that China has the technological and manufacturing capability to actually project the infrastructure construction and development throughout the world. But more importantly than this is that China graduates 1 million engineers a year. Because without human capital, no infrastructure development can be achieved. Then the third thing is that they got deep pockets. As you can see, China's foreign exchange reserve end of last year was some 3.8 trillion US dollars. But to me, the most important and innovative initiative for China this year is the Asia Infrastructure Investment Bank. And this one actually, because infrastructure construction is the common desire of all the countries in the South. So it's got the collective political will in the South to make the infrastructure, the AIIB, a success. But this bank is going to differ from the normal development bank like the Asia Development Bank because it is focused on infrastructure alone. And also it will be run like a commercial bank, not a development bank. And you can see that it is going to address the big infrastructure development gap in Asia, which is actually predicted to be US 8 trillion in the next 10 years, you see. And so the ADB is only able to contribute 10 billion a year for this, which needs 800 billion in a year in Asia. But also China has this One Belt, One Road, One Belt project, which is trying to revitalize through high-speed train and modern infrastructure the ancient land Silk Road and the ancient ocean Silk Road connecting China to Europe. And then, of course, the ocean Silk Road also connects China to what they call the Gulf country, to East Africa, and then to Europe. And China has pledged 40 billion US dollars for this. But the other thing about this project is that it is for mutual benefit. You can download the vision and the action for the China, One Belt, One Road project. The iconic project under One Belt, One Road is the Pakistan project, which is China has pledged 46 billion US dollars. And this is a 3,000 kilometer corridor from the south, which is the port of Guadalajara, right to Kashgar or Kasi in Xinjiang, China. And it is a 4-in-1 project. There's a highway, high-speed rail, then oil and gas pipeline, and high-speed broadband fiber cable. And this is supposed to be finished by 2018, very fast. But one thing that I've been trying to advocate is this, that China now build a lot of infrastructure. And of course, China want to demonstrate to the world that they are the best in infrastructure construction. So they want to build projects on time and below budget. But they don't train the local people or local engineers and technicians in maintenance of infrastructure. This is very, very true in Africa because the Africans lack the existing capacity of engineering know-how to maintain the infrastructure, which the Chinese contractor, they will do it in 2-3 years, and after they leave, then there's no local capacity to maintain the infrastructure in good repair. So we have been very concerned about this development. A lot of infrastructure is being built very costly, but there's no training to make sure that they are in good repair. So we have been advocating that 10% of the capital cost of infrastructure should be set aside for maintenance. And if you take the infrastructure project having a lifetime of 25%, you can see that the annual global budget for maintenance is some 12 billion a year. And this is actually a very sizable but neglected engineering services actually market. Now I come to talk a little bit about ISTIC. Now, through the kindness of Dr. Park, ISTIC has been featured here very prominently. So I wouldn't talk very much about it, but I'll leave behind the brochure outside afterwards. So if you want to know a little bit about ISTIC, please take the brochure. I just want to mention ISTIC, it is a creation of G7, China plus G77. So we are focused in actually helping less developed countries in the south. Because the China plus G77 is now actually 135 nations. And the dividing line is that OECD country or G77 country. So Korea actually belongs to the north, no longer G77, but their heart is still with the south. So I would like to say that ISTIC is also the outreach program entirely funded by Malaysia under UNESCO. And so we try to build institutional and human capital development in other capacity in other sub-countries. So of course the maintenance infrastructure is a priority program, basically because I'm an engineer. So I like this to be done. And then we have conducted a lot of workshops also in Africa and in Asia. But I've been lobbying the Chinese Academy of Science, Engineering that China must take the leadership role in this because they are the top builder of infrastructure in the world now. And in China, China has also built a lot of Confucius Institutes in Africa. And the Confucius Institute are meant to teach the local children Chinese language, Chinese song and dance, Chinese culture, Chinese history. So I was telling the Chinese Academy of Engineering, why not use the facilities of the Confucius Institute, which are actually based in universities in African countries, and to do maintenance or infrastructure training for local engineers and technicians. Because although the promotion of Chinese culture and all that is very good, but I think it's equally important that what China built in those countries should be properly maintained by the local engineers and technicians. I think this, my suggestion has been quite well received, so I'm waiting for the outcome. But to me, ladies and gentlemen, the most important SDG is actually SDG number 4, which is ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promoting lifelong learning opportunities for all. Because as I said before, without skilled human capital, no SDG can be achieved. Everything depends on skilled human capital. So fortunately, the SDG number 4 actually put very great emphasis on technical and vocational education and training. This is actually a very innovative departure from the previous focus on postgraduate education in South country. ISTIC, we have a priority program related to SDG number 4, which is the inquiry-based science education, IPSI, or hands-on STEM education program for primary and secondary schools, not university and postgraduate, primary and secondary school. Why? Because we must ensure the supply of innovative and creative high school graduates for science and engineering courses in universities by actually nurturing the creative instincts of the very young, which at present are being stifled by traditional book learning. This ISTIC, IPSI or STEM program, it starts with a very simple scientific premise. The scientific premise is, I do not know. I do not know. And then students are given a hypothesis, and through group discussion and experimentation, they eventually come to the right conclusion. It has been proven that IPSI improves science literacy, numeral literacy, and language literacy of students. IPSI enables students to question and doubt every proposition of any so-called prophet, unless his proposition is supported by experiment and borne out by evidence. Our world, ladies and gentlemen, our world and our young are constantly confronted by prophets of excessive military expenditure, of religious fundamentalism leading to terrorism, of profligate consumption as the model of economic development. I believe that the only effective defense is a discerning and rational global citizenry nurtured by evidence-based education the scientific way. So we have to invest in the young. But I also believe that just having a discerning and rational disposition in the young or in our citizens is not enough unless it is underpinned by the proper moral value system. So in this first Asia Innovation Forum, I would suggest that we in Asia and in the South should teach the world to adopt our traditional Asian values of, first, investment in education, second, hard work, third, frugality, saving for a rainy day, and finally, care for the extended family, care for our young, and care for our old. I believe that only thus we will not only nurture science literacy, numeric literacy, and language literacy in our youth, but above all, what I coin as humane literacy of our future citizens who will be caring of our common humanity and our common earth. Thank you very much.